Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello, my comic book friends, and welcome to Bizarre Brain Comics. I am Gary, your host. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters, creators, and examine the stories and the art. Okay. And this time I want to take a look, just a brief look, at these two books here. This is Hannah-Barberas High Adventure Heroes, issues 1 and 2. And from what I understand, they were the only two issues in that title. High Adventure Heroes. This is from Gold Key Comics from 1969. And they were quarterly, so there's a long gap in between. And of course, Gold Key had the license for the Hanna-Barbera characters. Now, previously I had done Hanna-Barbera's Superheroes Adventures, and I've only got one issue of that, and I think there was 2, maybe 3 issues from that title. But those were superheroes, and this is High Adventure Heroes. Of course, they're based on Hanna-Barbera stuff. Remember, from the 60s, Hanna-Barbera was the big thing for television animation. They had all kinds on all 3 networks. Remember the Flintstones and the Jetsons and Deputy Dog and Huckleberry Hound and stuff. Well, they also had a bunch of adventure stuff. They were the kings for Saturday morning cartoons. Almost everything was Hanna-Barbera, and it was when cartoons were good. They had some good characters and good adventure stuff. Action and adventure. Johnny Quest. But and that's why they're just so much better than most of the cartoons you find today, which are just downright goofy. And you don't have the adventure stuff. They have all with the nice artwork and the like. They have the bizarre, grotesque stylizations on stuff. That's just, my opinion. Most of the stuff that you find on for the Disney Channel with their animated stuff, and the with exceptions, of course, as well as the Cartoon Network, with exceptions, of course. And these are fun, and these were reflecting some of the animated shows that Hanna-Barbera had at the time, crossing the lines of the networks. So let's go take a little closer look at Hanna-Barbera's High Adventure Heroes. Okay, here you can see them a little better. This one is, you see in front is issue number 1, and behind it is issue number 2. Okay. Now, remember, had the superheroes, distinguish them from the High Adventure Heroes, which were mostly of an historical nature. The superheroes had stuff, Space Ghost, the Herculoids, Birdman, the Galaxy Trio, and sometimes they crossed over. And I think these others did kind of crossed over once in a while too. But these were from, placed in historical stuff, but were inspired by literature, even ever so lightly. Of course, and this featured like the Three Musketeers, of course, it's based on Alexander Dumas' novel of the Three Musketeers, featuring Athos, Porthos, Aramis, and D'Artagnan, working for the King and Queen of France. And then we had the Adventures of Gulliver, which is, of course, inspired by Gulliver's Travels, by Jonathan Swift. And of course, this is just a young fella, a teenager with his dog shipwrecked and lost on the island of Lilliput with the Lilliputians, and they never get into the other parts of. This is the part that everyone remembers of Gulliver's Travels, with the Lilliputians, even though they had another island with giants and one with talking horses and weird stuff. And then, of course, the Arabian Nights, and of course this is Knight, very, very loosely inspired by the 1001 Arabian Nights, Night with no K, which were adventures set in the Middle East. Those, and of course, that was the version reprinting or translated to English and printed as adventures from Arabian legend from the Middle East by Richard Burton, Sir Richard Burton, the explorer from the was it early 1800s? I can't remember just exactly when. Okay. And then one also has this second issue also has a micro venture of the Tiny Sea, which was kind of science fiction-y, but it fit more into the adventure rather than superhero, because it had a slight science fiction aspect to it. Now, going through the book here, this is issue 1. This one, okay, the superheroes one was drawn by Russ Manning and Mike Royer, and this one, issue 1, is. I took a look inside. Of course, there's no credits, so you don't know who it is. But I recognize, even though, see, these characters were all designed for Hanna-Barbera by the cartoonist Alex Toth. We've mentioned him before many times. And of course, he is best remembered for having designed did Scooby-Doo characters, and did the design for the Super Friends. And that's how his style is best known and remembered. But he also designed these characters. And so the artists in the comics were imitating, because they were going from of course, working from the model sheets from the studio. And they were, of course, characters designed by Alex Toth. So these artists were imitating Alex Toth, but little hints of their own style show through. Like this issue 1, as far as I can tell, was drawn by Paul Norris, who is I've talked about him before. He had was co-creator of Aquaman for DC in the 40s, but then later, after about this time or after, he was doing Tarzan of the Apes for Gold Key up until the time that they lost the license and it went to DC. And issue 2 is again, also while he's imitating the Alex Toth style, little hints of his own work shows through, was done by Dan Speigle, who worked on just about everything at Gold Key through the all through the 60s and 70s, doing TV and movie adaptations, tie-ins, as well as Korok, Son of Tarzan, Space Family Robinson, Lost in Space, and everything else until the end of Gold Key, when he started, when he was doing work for DC Comics, Black Hawk, and Secret Seven, is that what the title was? Stuff like that, and then independent publishers. I think it was Eclipse, doing a couple. I've got a couple of books I plan on covering that he did for Eclipse here in the near future. Okay, now just take a little look inside so you can see. I won't go into the stories here because this, in the first issue here, these stories are actually based on the stories from the animated show. This is the king, and this first panel. As soon as I saw that, I could see Paul Norris in that first panel, and then others, you can see it in his hands and stuff. And this is involving stuff with the true king, and has aspects from Alexander Dumas' The Man in the Iron Mask. And the only reason I realized that it is based on the story from the animated show, I don't know how loosely or how closely it stayed to it, is because I remember this last segment right here, because I saw this when I was a kid, and I haven't seen this in over 50 years, but I remember this segment right here at the end. And of course, go into Adventures of Gulliver. This is the longest part of the majority of the book, and this is the first part. This is how Gulliver was shipwrecked, lost at sea, whatever, and became. That's definitely Paul Norris, and you can see right there too, if you happen to be familiar with Paul Norris, you can just see it all over there. When how he came to the land of Lilliput, and then of course he gets tied down by the Lilliputians and stuff. Oh, there's a little thing about Star Trek right there. And this, some lovely stuff. Nice work. It's all around nice work. Good storytelling. And then here is, I can see this female figure, Paul Norris. I see it in there. The story, and this is how the Arabian Nights came to be, and saving the princess, who is later one of the regular Arabian Nights. And I vaguely remember that. This is how they became the Arabian Nights, as prince and princess and stuff. And I wanted to mention, since it was right here, is, of course, these artists were not working in a vacuum. Used all kinds of reference for all kinds of things, and sometimes referencing other artists and swiping stuff. Well, this isn't an outright swipe per se, but I recognize, and this is where I think, I don't know for sure, that photo reference that the artist used for that image right there of the rearing horse is from a still photograph of a shot from beneath the Planet of the Apes. I can be wrong, but it sure looks like it to be. As soon as I saw that, I knew that's beneath Planet of the Apes. even of course. And that's just the photo reference. It's not an out and out swipe, because of course everything is different. But it's just for the position of the horse and the riders. It's like how they looked. And again, that's it for that one. I want to take a little closer look here in issue 2. Original stories, as far as I know. The Three Musketeers, Masks of the Spider. Some really nice visual storytelling. Dan Speigle. But you can see the, if you're familiar with Alex Toth, you can see the strong Alex Toth impersonation or style impersonation here. This is a fun little story involving a secret society trying to kidnap the queen, trying to overthrow the French government, or take over the throne, I should say. And the micro adventure. Again, Alex Toth. And this is mostly educational. It's just a little thing. It's a 4-pager. The scientists get shrunk down, ride their little cart, and you can see the world in the pond. The life of exist in a pond from this small perspective. And then the Arabian Nights, the slave maker. And this is the longer story. And fantasy stuff going. The prince, here's the hero, leader of the Arabian Nights, being trapped by the wizard to be made into a slave, and his friends come to rescue him, and they're magical. Of course, the wizard is the villain. The others have magical, and the princess is captured as well, and how they have to go in and save the prince and princess using their little magical things, turned into a rhinoceros, turned into a tiger, and defeat the villains and dump them in their own slave mind control potion themselves, and they are defeated. Some fun little Hanna-Barbera adventures, and these shows were high on small on plot, high on action and adventure. And I think even in the comics, they probably had more plot than they had in the shows. And most of these were short segments. On the shows were short segments. I know Gulliver was a full half-hour adventure show, and the others were segments. I think the Three Musketeers were as well. I think that was had short segments, and I think this Arabian Nights were short segments, were 5 or 7 or 8 minute short adventures, so they could have a couple of different adventures, 2 to 3 adventures in a half-hour program. And I've run longer than I had intended, but this is just some real fun bit of nostalgia, looking back at when cartoons were fun and good, not some of the stupid crap we see around today, but with exceptions. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe. Let me know if you like the Hanna-Barbera cartoons or the comic versions of them. What about their literary roots to these adventures? These adventure stories. And that is all I've got. Tell me what you think of them. Do you remember them? Have you seen the shows? Have you seen the comics? And remember, comics are art.